Hello and welcome to MOSO Conversations with host President Dean Van Galen. Each episode is a conversation between Dr. Van Galen and guests from Missouri Southern State University, covering topics of student experience, academic achievement, and more. And now our host, Dr. Dean Van Galen.
Well, greetings. I'm Dean Van Galen, President of Missouri Southern, and welcome to MOSO Conversations. In each one of these podcasts, we talk about some interesting aspect of Missouri Southern State University, and this time we are focusing on Lion athletics and especially the student-athlete experience here at Missouri Southern. Really chose this topic because athletics is certainly a big part of the university. Sometimes we talk about it as the front porch of the university for many people in the community. It's not the only one. Certainly the arts fulfill that role. But here at Missouri Southern, we really value athletics and especially the student-athlete experience. So today I'm with four guests, and I'll briefly just introduce them, and then we'll also go around the table. First is Corey Reed. She is the interim athletic director. She's been serving in that role since March 17th, but has been at Missouri Southern on two different occasions, primarily as assistant athletic director for facilities and game management. She's a native of Kansas and a two-time graduate of KU, Kansas University. Also, a welcome to Brian Scheiding, who's our director, our coach of cross-country and track and field. And he has been a great leader, a developer of talent and young people here at Missouri Southern. In 2020, he was named the United States Track and Field and Cross-Country Coaches Association Men's Indoor Track and Field National Coach of the Year. And he's had great success here at Missouri Southern and by all accounts has done it the right way. And then also we have two of our student athletes, and I really appreciate that they are taking time to be with us today. Ashlyn Vanetter, and I'll let her introduce herself in a moment, and then Jared Ozzie. So welcome to everyone. I will just start with an observation of our student athletes here. It is really wonderful to see them compete and interact with them on campus. If you go into Billingsley and you stop by the Lions Den, many of those students are student athletes. They are really an important part of our campus. They tend to live on our near campus, and they impact who we are as a university in many ways. Also, it's part of who we are to see the spirit that they bring. A couple of weekends ago, Mary and I were at the softball game, and we threw out the first pitch. And we were talking to Coach Blackney and spent a little time in the dugout, and the team spirit, the camaraderie, the enthusiasm of those student athletes was really inspiring. So it's really a wonderful part of who we are at Missouri Southern. So I'd like to just go around the room and with some additional brief introductions, anything you'd like us to know about you, and then we'll kind of dive into some questions. So.
All right, my name is Ashlyn Vanetter, and I am a senior biology major here at Southern. I'm from West Plains, Missouri. That's about 3 hours southwest of here, or southeast of here. It's right on the border of Arkansas. I came from a very small school. I graduated with 16 people. So coming to Missouri Southern was, it was a big change, but I really like it because, it's very family-oriented, pretty small compared to some of the other universities, and I just feel very comfortable here. So.
I'm Jared Ozzie. I'm a senior criminal justice and accounting student here at Missouri Southern, and I'm actually coming back for a fifth year next year, so I'll have another senior season. I was born and raised in Springfield, Missouri, and I am going to pursue the IRS or FBI in the future.
Coach Scheiding.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me. First off, I have a little bit of a frog voice right now, but it's outdoor season, so there's a lot of encouragement at track meets. But this is my 12th year at Missouri Southern. We certainly have a bit of a family tie to the university. My wife graduated undergrad from here, and she's currently an instructor in kinesiology. Our son went to daycare on campus here as well. So, we've enjoyed Missouri Southern tremendously, and I just think it's a great place to have a good combination of academics and athletics, which I think is a big reason why we're here as long as we are, and hopefully for the future.
That's great. And Corey Reed, and if you introduce yourself and also just provide us with a bit of a big picture overview of line athletics, the sports we have, for people who might be less familiar. So,
Okay. Yep, Corey Reed. As Dr. Van Galen stated earlier, this is my second stint with Missouri Southern. I've been a lifelong Lions fan. My father is an alum here. My sister is an alum as well. Been coming to athletic competitions here for as long as I can remember, back when we used to play basketball in Young Gym, when that was our main basketball arena. So excited to be back here for the second time and to be a part of this department and all the great people here. As you mentioned, the sports that we have for our student athletes, we've got obviously men's and women's cross country, indoor track, outdoor track, which these student athletes are a part of here, men's and women's basketball. We have women's volleyball, women's softball, women's soccer, and then we have football and baseball, and then men's and women's golf as well. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's go to Coach Scheiding. And, being a coach is a little different lifestyle, it seems to me. And I'd love to hear how you were drawn to coaching, why you enjoy it, maybe what it's like to be a coach at a D2 institution in ways that maybe a lot of people don't necessarily understand.
There's a lot of directions I could go with that answer. How I became a coach is a little bit less traditional maybe than some. And I was just talking about this on a Zoom call with an alumni association where I went to college at Bucknell last week, in fact. But I was undergrad, I was an economics major. And when I graduated, I wasn't quite certain what I wanted to do. So I decided to pursue my master's degree. I ended up at LaSalle University in Philadelphia. Once again, after 3 years, I wasn't quite certain where I was headed. I was a graduate assistant. I coached track there for 3 years, and I've always had a great love for track. I was an athlete, clearly in high school and college. I trained a little bit after college, but it was working well. I felt like I had a bit of a niche with track and field and coaching the kids. So at that point, I applied to every NCAA opening that past summer. And that was back in 2003. And the job that came through was in Rolla, Missouri. So, and I was there for 6 years, and again, this is my 12th here. I think coaching at this level has a lot more to do with the student-athlete experience as opposed to straight wins and losses. I think it's a great combination of academics and athletics, which is what really draws me to this level. I've seen Division I levels, and I've interviewed with a few, but really the bond that you can get with the full team atmosphere is what's really attractive to me. These kids focus not only on being great students and getting a job post-collegiately, but they can be very successful in their sport as well. So I just think that it's an all-encompassing view of what a student athlete should be, not just somebody who's going to college to be an athlete, but to try to be a better all-around person coming out of college.
That's really well put, and I hear that from many of our coaches, that balance between competitiveness and the development of the student athlete and academics is really important.
It's very important. Now don't get me wrong, that I think if you would ask these guys, I put a very big stressor on being successful. But it's just like anything else in life. You get out of it what you put into it. And watching 6 programs and 100 student athletes across the board, they do really well. But I think winning at anything just takes a lot of work. So luckily they've been very successful in both areas.
Yes, certainly. So what about kind of day-to-day life as a coach? I imagine it varies by season of the year, but what does that look like?
So track and field and cross country is pretty unique. We don't get a break. Our break is summer when we're hitting the recruiting trails. Now, my assistant coach is more so than myself. But so in the fall, cross country, Coach Burnham is our head distance coach. He's the X's and O's of all of our distance programs. And I mean, for lack of a better term, administer cross country, do the behind the scenes work with it. But it's, and then track and field starts 2 weeks after cross country. And then that's the indoor season, and outdoor started 1 week after our indoor national championships. So it doesn't really stop, especially for our distance runners. Track has a preseason in the fall where there's no competition, but our cross-country kids are just pretty amazing. They just don't stop. 3 championships in a year, and trying to figure out the training for that and balancing the academic side of it when we do travel quite a bit is quite challenging. As a coach, I think my children would tell you they don't see enough of Dad. And during the COVID shutdown was pretty unique because once we got back to normal, my son forgot that I traveled. So on the weekends when I couldn't make his soccer games or things like that, it was very upsetting at first, and on both sides of it because I enjoy being there with him. But I'm at the office at 8:15 in the morning, and with 4:45 hits, I turn into a pumpkin so I can get home to gymnastics or music lessons or soccer, and I coach my son's U8 soccer team, and once they're in bed, it's some wife time, and then it's recruiting until whenever I get to bed. So there are break times in the summertime. I try to shut down as much as I can, and but it's all day, and if you don't love it, don't do it. We love what we do, and I have such an amazing staff. They keep me honest. I try to keep them honest, but they're tireless workers. So it's a lot. Luckily, I have a very understanding and intelligent wife that can put me in my place pretty often.
Sounds like you're fortunate in many ways.
Very fortunate.
Well, I'd like to hear from the students, I'm sure our listeners would as well, about life as a student athlete. Oftentimes we see student athletes on the court or the track or the field, and that is the part of their life that many outside visitors and viewers see. But I think it'd be interesting to hear what is your life like every day during the season, off season, and not just your life as an athlete, but also as a student and balancing all of that. So, Ashlyn, I'd love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, so my day-to-day routine is pretty busy. I normally try to wake up pretty early just to get my day started. I find that if I get up early and kind of make a plan of how my day is going to go, it seems to go more smoothly than if I just try to fly by the seat of my pants. So yeah, I try to plan all my classes in the morning. That way I can save my afternoons for track. And I'm also in several clubs here at Missouri Southern. So normally we have meetings in the afternoon. And to be able to make those, I really need to have all my classes in the morning. That way they don't conflict. So I'll go to class in the morning. Normally we have practice late afternoon, mid to late afternoon, and we don't get done with all of that till sometimes 4 or 5 in the evening. And that includes lifting on the days we have to lift. And then around 5 or 5:30 is when meetings start, if I do have club meetings or officer meetings. And so I tend to go to those. And then I'll come home, shower, kind of take a break for a minute, catch my breath, make dinner, eat, and then that's normally homework time. And I just try to stay up until I feel caught up or feel that everything's done. And sometimes, sleep is very important as a student athlete, so I try to go to bed at a decent time, but it's kind of that balance between, okay, do I want to be stressed out and get sleep, or do I want to feel caught up and get as much sleep as I can get?
Sounds very busy. Jared, how about you?
Yeah, so actually until college, I never used a planner at all. Once I got to college, I realized I really needed a planner. I write down, at the beginning of the week on Sundays, I write down everything I'm doing for the week, when practices are, that way I don't forget. That changes sometimes. And then I've had to set times to study because I realize that if I don't set times to study, sometimes I forget or sometimes I just blow it off. So I try to wake up every day around 5:30 to 6 o'clock, just depending on when practice is. Then I use the first few minutes to stretch, get woken up and all that, head over to practice. Then I normally have classes in the morning time, and then I return and I study for a few hours, eat lunch, and then I have afternoon practice as well. And being in cross country and track and field, like you said earlier, Coach Scheiding said, we train all year long. All summer long we're training. So it's really nonstop. The schedule never changes.
So what's a typical kind of workout during the season?
We wake up 2 days a week, normally Monday and Wednesday, and we do a weight session followed by a 4 or 5 mile run. And then in the afternoon, we normally have a 10-mile easy run or 10-mile workout.
did you say a 10-mile easy run?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. That seems like a oxymoron, but okay, I get it. And how about you?
So we have tempo days and then we have speed days. So during season, I feel like the amount we do is a little less, but it is more intense. So we'll be faster and that kind of thing. So our tempo days normally range from, yesterday we actually had a tempo day. We had 2 350s and then I had 3 200s after. And they were at 95%. So we're kind of going 95% in practice. You can equivalent that to 100% because, at meets, you have adrenaline, all that kind of thing. So it is pretty fast. And then on our speed days, we normally have shorter distances. So we'll do maybe 120s, 150s, 180s, and we'll have more of them. But again, they'll be in our spikes. They'll be really fast. So
I'm going to ask a question of our interim AD, Corey Reed, but I'm going to come back to the students and maybe some time to think about this. I'd be interested to know what is your favorite or most memorable experience as part of the team, competing or whatever that is, and then also at the university beyond athletics. So when you look back 5 or 10 or 20 years from now, what do you think will stick in your mind? So I'll give you a minute to think about that. But Corey, you've been an athletics administrator and involved for a long time, and just kind of like to get your perspective on the student athlete experience here, what you see from our student athletes, and then also with our coaches and how they view that.
Well, I think the experience that the student athletes have really starts with the coaches and the coaching staff and how they manage the schedules and how they lead their teams. So we are fortunate here that we have just a tremendous group of coaches across the board who really do care about the students and how their experience goes. They do want to win. Don't get me wrong. Coach Scheiding would agree. They want to win, but they also understand the importance of the students getting their education, becoming good citizens, and being able to be successful in their life after and look back on this time on what an amazing experience they had and they were able to be a student athlete at Missouri Southern. So I think it starts with the coaches when it comes to that. But I think we've got a great group of student athletes that are involved in campus, in clubs or in activities across, they're leaders on campus. Like you said, you see them all over. They're involved. They live on campus. They live nearby if they don't, and they come support each other. That's one of the most fun things to see is when the teams come support each other. And I think that shows the bond that they have because they all have these very busy schedules. They have a lot of balls in the air that they have to keep going, and I think that they understand the challenges that they each face, and they support each other in that. And that's a special bond that they will always have.
That's fantastic. So, Ashlyn, what are your thoughts? Maybe looking back at your experience here, obviously it's not over here at Missouri Southern, but what are some moments or memories that you think you'll take away?
I think the biggest thing I'm going to miss about Missouri Southern is just the team camaraderie and just everyone I have around me. It's definitely a family. I mean, I'm with my coaches and my teammates more than I'm with anybody else. So you do create that bond, and I'm definitely going to miss that. I know when we had to go home for COVID and we couldn't really be around each other in our season, we couldn't have our season. It was weird because I kind of got a look at what life is going to be like after college, and it was kind of a rude awakening. Honestly, I obviously hadn't thought about that yet, and it kind of just showed me that, even on the hard days when you're like, man, like I'm really tired, I'm going to look back and that's what I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss like those hard practices when I'm with my teammates and we're just like pushing through, and, all the times on the bus rides there and back and all the late nights, and just having those people you can count on at all times. If any of my teammates need anything or I need anything, I know I can count on them, and I know they'll count on me. If I wouldn't hesitate to do anything for any one of them. So I think that's what I'm going to miss the most, just having that group of people that I can go to no matter what.
That is awesome.
And I'd have to agree as well. I love running. It's something I can do for the rest of my life. It's fairly simple. You don't really need any real equipment for it. But the thing that Missouri Southern, and one of the reasons I came here was because of the people, because I knew that there was a good team here that wanted to work hard, wanted to compete. And whenever I leave Missouri Southern, I'll know that I got a good competition. I had good competition, and I got a great experience with everyone. We've been to nationals 3 times now out of my 4 years. This year we didn't get to go because of COVID, obviously. Mm-hmm. But, just going on those trips and making it that far with a group of guys that shows up every day and does 15 miles a day, that really, it's hard. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, you'll have some great memories for sure. Coach Scheiding, a couple things. We touched on COVID, and I was really curious your perspective on the last year. Certainly a unprecedented, historic time. What has that been like? What did that look like for track and field and cross country?
There was an awful lot of feelings in general. There was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of anger with the kids on the team. Kind of almost a strung out feeling, I think, for the kids, because it's a short story, but this, March 13th, the day before our indoor national championships, we were in Birmingham, Alabama, with 21 student athletes, almost double the amount of student athletes Missouri Southern has ever had at a national championship. Our women were ranked number 2 in the country, and our men were, up. I think we were 6th going into it. And, I hate to say it, last year was just such a tremendous year. Our men were set on pace to do some pretty special stuff, and so were our women. And the unfortunate thing about social media is the student athletes knew that the championships were canceled before the coaches did. So the NCAA tweeted the championships were canceled, and we didn't have any communication. So all of a sudden, we're in our hotel room, phones are blowing up. And one of the toughest things I had to do last year was tell those 21 student athletes and coaches and staff that we're jumping on a bus tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. and we're driving back to Missouri, because they trained so hard to get there, and expectations were just through the roof. And it was challenging. I'll never forget the faces of some of those kids, because some of them left and that was it. One of them in particular was one of our pole vaulters who was pretty successful here. And I just remember her looking at me because that was her last chance, So the bus ride back was also surreal. It was one of those, it was silent. It was a 10-hour silent bus ride. And you're looking out the window wondering what's going on in the world. We're on our phones, seeing what's happening. So it was just surreal. And we got back to campus and everything shut down. So I think the most challenging thing was trying to keep as much communication possible with the student athletes, with the coaches. You try to Zoom as much as you can, and you try to send out the group chats as much as you can. But even with all the information we were getting from Missouri Southern and the university, and the NCAA, it changed on a daily, almost a daily basis, and certainly weekly. So I would give them communication, hey, we're coming back in 2 weeks. Then 2 days later, hey guys, I'm sorry that the semester is canceled. And even going into this fall throughout the summer was we're having championships until we weren't. So the inconsistencies were really a challenge with the kids on the team. And I did my very best to communicate, and I don't think I did very well at it. Dealing with our own challenges with, oh my gosh, homeschooling was just awful. Homeschooling my 7 and 11-year-old it was terrible. I never want to do it again. And I love those little guys to death, but they never want to do it again either. Neither does my wife.
There's a new appreciation for teachers
I think,
everywhere.
Yes, most definitely. I also think what it did was give the student athletes in all sports, not just our sport, a greater appreciation for what they were able to do, what they have the unique opportunity to do post-high school. And losing those championships and losing the fall championships, and luckily some of our sports were able to get them back this spring. Cross country was not one of them. So like Jared said, we have a string of kids going to national championship calibers and winning a lot of championships and just being successful and having a great time in training, and to have that taken away. So ultimately we had 3 sports taken away from us, indoor, then outdoor, then cross country. It really, I think, gave them a different perspective on, hey guys, we get to have an indoor season. It's just this, we need to do all the right things. And I think maybe more than many, I really have tried to follow every possible rule. I mean, I look at a kid the wrong way and they're masking up really quick. We're on a bus and we're staggered in our seats and we're eating boxed lunches away from each other, and I just give them that hairy eyeball. And it's for us, for athletics, it's the season was in their hands. If we made the best choices we can, we could keep going. If we had some unfortunate situations, some kids couldn't compete. So I think communication, just trying to keep people moving in the right direction, was really just such a challenge because, as Ashlyn mentioned, you got a dose of the real world. I had one of my students, she went home, and she's a junior, so she went home after a sophomore. She decided that she wanted to graduate a year early and go to med school. Well, she's one of my pole vault crew I have 4 out of 5 of them are 4.0 pre-med students, and she's graduating a year early, going to Oklahoma State. Well, that was, now I got to find another pole vaulter. It was one of those things. But just depending on where you went, luckily, I think most of our student athletes in all of our sports went the right direction. They kept doing the right thing, making good choices coming in, and really just coming in with a greater appreciation of what you have in front of you, because you have a precious 4 years, maybe 5, to do college athletics. And once it's over, it's over. And the relationships you build, the successes or non-successes you have, how you grow as a human during that time is very important. So I think if anything, it brought a greater appreciation with it.
Yeah, that is, it's an amazing story of what our all student athletes went through. And we all experienced COVID in different ways, but to be at the national championships and having to take a bus ride, that will be forever the worst memory about athletics, Yeah.
But here we are today, and we're going after, an outdoor championship in a couple of weeks.
Well, and we have just 2 or 3 minutes left, but I thought that might be a good last topic is what do you see the next few weeks, rest of the season?
Hopefully staying healthy, continuing to compete. I think our coaches have these guys prepared in just such a tremendous way. And, numbers are numbers. We talk about rankings and what they really mean in the grand scheme of things. It's a great website article. It's a great newspaper article. And I think one thing that we really constantly stress is just keeping our nose to the grindstone and just keep hammering at practice. And, I think this is a pretty special group of kids. It always will be because of what we've gone through together. But talent-wise, I think we're just as good as we've ever been, and hopefully that'll equal some pretty good marks at the end of the year here.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you and your team. And on behalf of the university, I want to thank Coach Scheiding, all of our coaches, for supporting our students in wonderful ways during a difficult time. I certainly want to thank all of our student athletes for being part of Missouri Southern. What you bring to this campus is unique and really important to who we are. So it's been a unique year for sure, but I wish you the best the rest of the semester. And again, thanks for being here. Coach Scheiding, Corey, our student athletes. See you around campus.
This has been another episode of MOSO Conversations with host President Dean Van Galen. To listen to other episodes and to stay up to date with information from Dr. Van Galen, visit his blog at president.mssu.edu.